Okay, people, another day in clown world. We got Donald J. Trump praising a frog throat reptilian depopulationist. We got the Pope blessing a giant ice cube for climate change. And now a new terror attack in the UK, the same time the demons in charge over there want to usher in a digital ID slavery state. How convenient. Remember how Laura Loomer, diehard Trump loyalist, always seems to predict events on Twitter? Every single time, it's like she was handed the script from Netanyahu himself. Months before the Charlie Kirk event, she tweeted this: "I don't want to say it out loud, but something extremely bad is about to happen in America. I feel it. I trust my instincts." Weird, right? Like she was handed the Civil War script beforehand. Then she starts beefing with Candace Owens like it's the political version of Cardi B and Nicki Minaj. I mean, sharing weird pictures of her and Candace together, both of them going back and forth about who got funded by Rob Shillman. Just insane stuff here. It's like two shills battling it out for shill of the year. But what could be coming next? Well, let's go to Laura Loomer's page right here, the Joomer, and see what she's been saying. Now, after a power outage at Grand Central Station in NYC on September 25th, this comes after fiber cables were also cut in Mississippi and Louisiana on the same day, and Dallas Airport last Friday, which caused delays and cancellations for thousands of flights. Now, Laura Loomer said this about all of these events. She says something very big is happening. "I have a very terrible feeling in my gut this whole month. I truly believe a massive Islamic terrorist attack on the US and our electrical grid in some capacity is coming very soon. All of the warning signs are there. Stay locked and loaded." Well, the Joomer has spoken, folks. I mean, the terror cells seem to be activated around the world at the same time now, so we can expect something very big in the US soon. Considering Laura said this, we will have another 9/11 in our country, probably within the next 6 months to a year. And when we do, it will be because the people who have been put in charge of combating terrorism in America are too afraid to say Islamic terrorism, okay? This is predictive programming. They're letting you know who it is beforehand, kind of like the Osama bin Laden 9/11 BS. That's right, people. Laura Loomer's Twitter page is like Jews Clues. Okay, if you want to figure out what's coming next, tune in. Well, get this. In the UK, major event took place the same time they want digital slavery introduced. On a Jewish holiday, a car ramming and stabbing outside Heaton Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue left 2 dead, several injured, and the attacker shot dead by police, allegedly. PM Starmer called it horrific and ordered security ramped up at synagogues across the country. And that's where the script always flips, folks. A real tragedy used as the perfect pretext to justify the next solution. Back in 2023, the UK was already test driving its own version of a China-style control grid, but they slapped a friendlier label on it, okay? They call it 15-minute city. Sounds pretty harmless, right? Just pop down the road and grab your bread, maybe a haircut, all within walking distance. But read between the lines here, people. It's not about convenience. Once again, it's about power. It's about control and treating people like livestock. Ministers were on stage warning about rationed roads, councils dishing out permits to move between neighborhoods, and cameras everywhere to police your travel. They swore up and down it wasn't about confinement, but then why are they obsessed with traffic filters, fines, and forcing people into designated routes? Oxford, Canterbury, Sheffield, Bristol, and even Scotland all floated these plans under the holy banner of net zero. The big issue spent the whole article mocking anyone who called it a conspiracy, claiming nobody was going to lock you in a neighborhood, okay? While at the same time laying out in plain English how councils were literally testing schemes out to do exactly that. Call it climate lockdowns, call it digital zoning, but the writing was on the wall. What they pushed as green urban planning was always the rehearsal for the digital ID and carbon credit prison they're rolling out now. And here we go again, folks, okay, all around the world at the same time. I just saw a video recently of them putting checkpoints up in neighborhoods in the UK, looking exactly like China. I mean, we were called conspiracy theorists for saying this would happen, and it's actually happening now, and people have already moved on, okay? Years back, they planned this. They tested the system out in China, and they said they were going to bring it out to Western nations. They just needed different crises and manufactured emergencies to do so. Okay, when a blackout happens, it could be blamed on Islamic terror or even climate change. You know, this is why the Pope was blessing an ice cube. They might really install this system under the banner of net zero, because not energy rationing is causing blackouts. And here we go again, folks. All around the world at the same time. Hong Kong just announced they're cranking up a surveillance grid from a measly 4,000 cameras to 60,000 AI-powered facial recognition cameras by 2028. That's funny because that same exact year is the deadline for the demons in charge. Bill Gates says if you don't accept a digital ID by 2028, you will be isolated from society. And all these articles mention that date, 2028, okay? That's not about security, that's digital cattle fencing. They say it's for national security and crime prevention. Same excuse every government uses, whether it's Beijing, London, or Brussels. Real-time tracking of faces, license plates, crowds, everything that moves becomes a data point, okay? And remember, UK just signed a deal with Palantir just now. It's one of the biggest outside of America deals ever. Okay, $1 billion deal with Palantir. The same time this is rolling out, do people see what's coming? And notice the timing here. Britain's already beta testing the same tech. Europe pretends to ban it while carving out exceptions, in quotes, and Canada, the US, Australia, you name it, are all lining up with their own digital ID and surveillance projects all around the world at the exact same time. You really think this isn't coordinated here? Because now, under the banner of protecting communities, they say, the same people floating mandatory digital ID schemes are also holding emergency meetings about tracking threats and securing venues. That's right, the infrastructure they claim will keep you safe from terror is the exact same infrastructure they'll use to tag and trace every movement you make, from biometric gates at synagogues to trusted identity cards to access public spaces. The leap from temporary measure to permanent digital passport is always faster than anyone expects. And while everyone's distracted with war headlines, here comes Taiwan quietly rolling out the digital arrival card. You know, a shiny little requirement for every single traveler to fill out 3 days before landing. Passport, email, phone, occupation, accommodations. Basically a pre-crime profile so the state knows exactly who you are before you even set foot off the plane. They call it modernization. What it really is digital leash training, okay? And surprise, surprise, it's not just Taiwan. On October 12th, nearly 30 European countries start fingerprinting and face scanning everyone at the border under their new entry-exit system. But don't worry, it's not about control, people. It's just about security and fraud prevention. Yeah, sure, and I'm the king of England. Every nation, from Asia to Europe, is rolling out the same ID plus biometric grid at the exact same time. But if you dare connect the dots, you know, you're crazy. Hey, this looks like a blueprint for global social credit slavery here. Nope, you're a conspiracy theorist. That would never happen. Kind of like mandated injections and QR codes being scanned to enter restaurants, okay? You know, it's all crazy until it actually happens. And that's the pivot, folks. One moment, you're grieving a terror attack. The next, you're being told the only way to stop the next one is to hand over your fingerprints, your face scan, and your digital life. I mean, they did warn that stuff like this would happen. Matter of fact, like a week before this UK terror event, I saw a video of someone saying exactly that.
ISIS has just called on UK Muslims to start attacking Christian gatherings throughout the country and to kill Christians wherever possible as an act of revenge for Palestine. ISIS is telling Muslims in the UK to break into their homes, kill them and punish them by any means you can. Blow them up with explosives, burn with bombs, shoot with fatal bullets, cut and slaughter with sharp knives, run them over and crush them with buses. The threat level in the UK is already substantial, so that means a terrorist attack is likely to happen. And the mainstream media is silent on this. And I genuinely believe we will see several terrorist attacks happening very shortly. Our borders are wide open and we have migrants in the hotels who have direct links to ISIS and other terrorist organisations. And I don't want people contemplating whether to attend a protest or not. We are in a fight for our country. If you cower away because of these threats, then you are willingly handing your country over to these Islamists. The ultimate goal for Islam is to have complete control over our country. We cannot allow that to happen. More people need to start speaking about this issue before it's too late. And I recommend for everyone to search Taqiyya. Taqiyya is a principle in Islam where it allows Muslims to lie and deceive to infidels to not show their true intentions. That's what we're saying now so they can gain positions of power. But once they become the majority, that's when everything will change.
I gotta say, a lot of that sounds like what is written in Jewish doctrine as well. It's like two sides of the same coin. They say the same exact thing. Check this out. In Baba Kama 113a, I believe this is in the Talmud, every Jew is allowed to use lies and perjury to bring a non-Jew to ruin. Israel wants peace. We respect Christians. We are tolerant to all. We are proud of being British, American, Australian. Baba Kama. This is another Judaic doctrine of deception, lying in Judaism that is permitted under certain circumstances. Jews may use subterfuges to circumvent a goy. That's why Netanyahu is laughing at his Barbie. That's right, his number one puppet right here. This came out September 22. So just like a week or so before that terror event took place. And now it looks like the UK got exactly what they wanted. And the man that did it was literally called Jihad. That's right, people. ISIS has informed all of their members to bomb people, run them over with cars, throw grenades. Sounds like it was written by the IDF. But the UK has fallen, folks. It will be one of the first Western New World Order slavery states. Okay? Now, why are digital IDs a dangerous trap for Britain? Well, because it has nothing to do with convenience, as we all know. If you need to know more, talk to one of your conspiracy theorist friends. They'll tell you. Politicians and bureaucrats are dressing it up as modernization and security, but underneath, the shiny packaging is just another surveillance weapon. Once you hand over your life to a government-run ID system, you're giving the state and its corporate partners a backdoor into every corner of your existence. Bank accounts, medical care, housing, travel, all of it can be switched off with the click of a button. And why is it an absolutely terrible idea to accept a digital ID? Well, they already tested the mark of the beast system on the most obedient people in the world. First, China. Okay, it was the beta test for digital slavery, and it clearly works. That's why many of these demons in charge are praising it, from Soros, Klaus Schwab to Bill Gates. For those of us here in the Western world, especially in the UK, you need to fight against digital IDs the same way people fought against the shots. Because saying yes to this is the same as rolling up your sleeve. Here's the proof. Digital ID can force you to get vaccinated. Chinese elders, they don't have a smartphone, are lining up to take a facial scan to verify their vaccine status in order to enter a food market to buy food. China threatens the elders if they refuse to get vaccinated. They would lose access to pensions, which require a facial scan to claim in China. That's not science fiction, folks. That's what digital ID leads to. Okay, we're watching the UK inch in this direction. Keir Starmer is talking about a mandatory ID scheme under the excuse of stopping the boats. But everyone knows migration isn't the real issue here. It's the Trojan horse. They did it, okay? They caused this problem and are offering you a demonic solution. Once the infrastructure is in place, it won't stop at border control. It will creep into your online logins, your GP visits, your mortgage applications, and even voting. Scope creep is guaranteed. History proves it every time governments roll out surveillance tools. At the end of the day, the whole circus is about funneling everyone into a shiny new cage, a digital ID grid that links your phone, your social media, your bank account, your medical file, even the garbage you scroll at 2 a.m., okay? All into one neat government-approved profile so Big Brother can finally rubber stamp your entire existence. And funny how all these policies, whether they're rolled out in London, Brussels, or Timbuktu, somehow always move in lockstep like they've been rehearsing the exact same dance for decades because, well, they have. Okay, they just slap a different sticker on it, the same agenda to trick different crowds. On the right, it's sold as protect the border and stop illegal immigration. While the left gets the cute version of it, about saving kids and it'll stop cyberbullying and ending hate speech, okay? It'll prevent homophobia and transphobia. It's the same chain, different leash. Take Keir Starmer, for example. He screams about migrants flooding the country, tweets endlessly about the invasion, then magically unveils the Jewish solution, okay? Straight from the WEF's filing cabinet. Decades in the making, a whole coalition waiting in the wings. And guess what? The taxpayer picks up the tab. 600,000 people getting out of bed every morning just to cover the 4.7 billion euro hotel bill for asylum seekers, while Starmer promises to clear the hotels only for his government to turn around and drag people to court to block removals. The play is always the same. They give you a crisis, pretend to fight it, then hand you the solution. They had locked and loaded from the start, okay? And behind the curtains, the same billionaire demons in charge, okay? The same pedos that have been building a private system of financial control for over a century. Digital ID is just the skeleton key that ties it all together globally, and they'll sell it to you as protection while laughing in your face because once you're tagged, logged, and linked, congratulations, you're livestock on their digital farm. Think about whistleblowers or journalists. If every online account has to be tied to your government-approved ID, anonymity disappears overnight. That means no safe way to challenge power, no way to leak corruption without putting a target on your back. It's censorship by infrastructure. And don't forget the hackers. A centralized database with everyone's biometric and financial details is the ultimate jackpot for cyber criminals. One breach and your entire identity could be exposed. Then there's the discrimination factor. Not everyone owns a smartphone or can navigate these systems, especially the elderly and the poor. Are they supposed to become second-class citizens in their own country just because they don't want to be plugged into this digital grid? That's where this leads to. And it really makes you wonder about the documentary now, and it's not a movie, Elysium. That's exactly what it looks like. 2 tiers of society. Craziest part is, well, nobody voted for this. There's been no referendum, no real public debate. It's been smuggled in under the cover of law and order, sold as protection, but in reality, it's a cage. Combine digital ID with central bank digital currencies and carbon tracking policies, and you yourself will be praying over a giant ice cube soon. It's a perfect recipe for disaster, and that will lead us to a China-style social credit system dressed in a Union Jack. It's easy to know this is all demonic. I mean, one of the biggest backers of this digital ID worldwide is none other than Billy the Baphomet Gates. That's right, he's on video saying digital IDs must be mandatory to fight misinformation. What he means is he's mad people mock him online, so now he wants to nuke anonymity altogether, okay? His trusted ID system isn't about trust, it's about control. A permission-based internet where every post, every payment, every move has to be pre-approved by your biometric scan. He's already bragged about India's Aadhaar system, a program that turned farmers into data points tracked from a government command center. Critics saw what it really was, a social credit skeleton. Okay, he did it over there and even gave an announcement about how well it works. And Gates didn't just stop in India, in Kenya. His foundation is helping roll out Maisha Namba, a so-called life number that critics warn doubles as a cradle-to-grave vaccine tracking system. Babies tagged at birth, citizens tracked for compliance, all wrapped in the language of inclusion. That's right, because, Bill Gates cares about Africans. At the UN Goalkeepers Conference, he pledged $1.27 billion for health and development, slipping in $200 million for digital public infrastructure. That's code for digital ID, payment rails, and biometric databases. Without ID, their system collapses. With it, you're not a citizen anymore. You're just an account number, logged into a global control grid. And Silicon Valley is not sitting this one out either. I mean, as I spoke about before, all of these phone companies are now pushing this same system. Apple just announced that in 2026, they'll roll out a Bill Gates-backed digital passport right into Apple Wallet. At first, it'll be optional for TSA screenings or proving your age in apps, but you know how this ends, folks. Optional becomes mandatory. Apple calls it a frictionless digital ecosystem. In other words, your iPhone becomes your leash. Every tap a trace, every unlock a checkpoint, and the TSA has already confirmed it's ready to phase out physical IDs once this is live. Imagine being denied access to board a flight because you retweeted someone like me. This could really go there. Europe is already moving lightning speed when it comes to this. It's mind-blowing. They're talking about digital IDs and CBDCs the same year. Starting October 12, 2025, nearly 30 EU countries will demand fingerprints, facial scans, and biometrics from Americans at the border. If you refuse, you don't get in. period. Even kids are partly included. Passport stamps are gone, replaced by a permanent EU database logging every trip you take. Officials call it streamlining, but it's the infrastructure for global digital IDs. By April 2026, it will be fully enforced. No opt-out. Travel is just the carrot, okay? The stick is total traceability. If they can lock you out of borders, then they can lock you out of everything else. And let's not forget the scumbag Tony Blair. That's right, the man who dragged Britain into Iraq is now dragging it into digital slavery. He's been secretly lobbying ministers to push his billionaire pal Larry Ellison's tech empire right into the center of UK's digital ID rollout. Ellison, Oracle's boss, worth nearly $300 billion, has already pumped 257 million euros into Blair's institute. Oracle has 700 million euros in Whitehall IT contracts, and now, surprise, surprise, they're in pole position for the digital ID jackpot. In just 9 months, Oracle and Ellison Institute staff met UK ministers 29 times. That's not lobbying, okay? That's basically tech colonization. Blair even bragged to ministers that India saved $15 billion in fraud with digital ID. Yeah, that's right. That means governments can save cash. Citizens lose privacy. And here comes Starmer right on time announcing you need a digital ID just to work in the UK. Cronyism wrapped in patriotism. With the contracts basically funding Ellison's yacht fund. So here we go, folks. Digital IDs in Europe by October 12, 2025. 29 European countries will roll out the new entry-exit system, swapping traditional passport stamps for biometric data collection at borders. Aimed at modernizing border control, speeding up entry, and boosting security, the system will track travelers' data electronically. However, this means no more physical stamps as trip mementos. The change will cover much of Europe, including France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Greece, Switzerland, and more, making a significant shift in travel documentation. Sudden and unexpected, says on X. That is insane. But here is some good news. People are waking up. The British rollout has already sparked one of the biggest public pushbacks in years. Shout out to my UK people for pushing back against this digital slavery right here. A petition to kill the scheme exploded past 1 million signatures in just 24 hours. It's now over 1.2 million and climbing. This isn't just a fringe group pushing back. This is opposition coming from all sides. Reform UK, Conservatives, Lib Dems, even Labour rebels. For once, voters and old school Labour voters agree on something. No digital papers, no biometric collar. Sure, Westminster can ignore petitions, they usually do, but the speed and scale of this one proves the public sees through the scam. Okay, so that is great news. So yes, they've got Gates, Blair, Ellison, Apple, the EU, and the whole globalist choir signing off on the same digital slavery sheet, but the UK just sent them a message. Resistance spreads faster than their QR codes. Picture this lovely future right here. Your digital ID isn't just your wallet, your keys, your login. It's your medical file welded to your money. Now imagine that ID linked to vaccine status and plugged into a programmable digital currency. Suddenly, every checkout terminal becomes a checkpoint. Want to buy food? Beep, access denied until you update your jabs, Try to pay cash? LOL, what cash? The CBDC grid doesn't care about your nostalgia. Scan your forehead, dummy. Governments will sell it as convenience and safety, but what it really is coercion by checkout, an automated cop at every doorway. The terrifying part is that the justification will always lean on health, okay? Remember, we know what the jabs have done now. It's clear as day. And they want to install a digital ID to force you into this turbo cancer agenda too. And right now, the health picture is more alarming than ever. First, Italy, now South Korea, have dropped population-wide studies showing sharp increases in cancer following COVID shots. Italy tracked 300,000 people for 30 months and found elevated risks for overall cancer, breast, bladder, and colorectal. South Korea's data set was even bigger, 8.4 million adults, and the numbers are just brutal here. 27% higher overall cancer, lung up 53%, prostate up 69%, thyroid up 35%, stomach up 34%, colorectal 28%, breast cancer, 20%. And it didn't matter the platform, okay? It doesn't matter what type of vaccine you get because it's all poison, mRNA, viral vector, or even mixed. They all seem to carry this signal. Boosters obviously made it worse, as the numbers tell us, with gastric cancer climbing and pancreatic cancer more than doubling. Women, younger adults, the elderly, no demographic got away clean. So line that up with a digital ID system that can literally deny you groceries, housing, or travel if you don't comply. And you've got the perfect storm. Force the population into medical products now linked directly to increases in cancer, and lock them with a programmable wallet that can be switched off with a keystroke. Critics will nitpick methodology, regulators will drag their feet, but the pattern is converging across nations. And once you bolt that to your ID currency grid, the debate doesn't matter. You comply or you starve. That's modernization. That's soft totalitarianism dressed up as public health efficiency. And it's why digital ID tied to vaccines is not just a bad idea, it's a recipe for slow motion public health catastrophe, aka global democide, enforced at the till. And while those numbers explode across entire populations, Trump is cutting a landmark deal at the White House with Pfizer. That's right. This, the same Pfizer to hand them a direct-to-patient government sales portal. That's right. That's what it says here. Tariff shields and $70 billion in new U.S. investments under the banner of lower drug costs. They're calling it TrumpRx.gov. It's not just about pills. Pfizer's own press release says the deal lets them fully focus on vaccines, obesity drugs, cancer treatments, and immunology. Vaccines, right there in black and white. Okay, this is how you build the infrastructure for the next public health emergency. Manufacture here, price here, and distribute straight from Big Pharma to your digital ID wallet with the government's logo on it. Trump plays the Judas goat perfectly, right? Hope you're seeing it play out, promising to fix Big Pharma while giving them a golden ticket to run the next pandemic inside the programmable grid you can't escape out of. That's not cutting drug prices for you. That's cutting a deal for themselves. They're building a permanent government-backed pharmaceutical cartel disguised as a discount club. They want you taking more poison Depop clot shots, okay? The end. More people are waking up to the dangers of vaccines, and they know it. This is why they're using trusted figures like Chelsea Clinton to promote more vaccines. You heard that right. What better person to sell us on vaccines than Hillary Clinton's daughter, teaching us about the dangers of misinformation when it comes to vaccine. I mean, this is just nuts. Chelsea Clinton has launched a new podcast aimed at debunking misinformation on health topics like vaccines and fluoride, featuring a lineup of so-called experts. Oh my God. The show is called That Can't Be True. And it will cover topics like childhood vaccines, fluoride, and raw milk, with Clinton and guests aiming to dismiss misleading claims. Oh my God. Clinton has previously admitted to working for the WHO and the Gates Foundation on a massive childhood immunization campaign to catch as many kids up as possible. And she's about to start a podcast, okay? That if hell had a podcast, that would be it right there. Actually, you know what? Let's play a game. Which podcast would you rather listen to? Chelsea Clinton's podcast with special guests like Bill Gates, or these guys right here? Take a look for yourself. It's like the podcast equivalent of getting waterboarded. And then get this. Trump is giving a speech at the White House, and he smiles for the cameras, and he says, "I was honored to have Albert Bourla here. He's done a fantastic job with COVID. He did a fantastic job with a lot of things. He's a leader, and Pfizer is right at the top." Not me paraphrasing, people. That's what came out of the orange-mouthed loon right there at the White House last week. He was praising a veterinarian whose pre-Pfizer claim to fame was Improvac. That's right, Albert Bourla was known for Improvac years back, a shot sold to farmers as an alternative to ripping pigs' testicles out. That's right, a vaccine that trains an animal's immune system to attack its own fertility hormone so the boar stops mounting, breeding, and producing that dreaded boar taint, in quotes. It even comes with a 2-dose starter and optional boosters to keep the effect going, plus a side effect profile that hits hormones and hearts alike. That's right. Pfizer's own post-auth documents quietly flagged anti-sperm antibody positivity as an adverse event of special interest. Theirs is stuffed with sexual dysfunction and menstrual chaos reports, and there's a paper trail from Kenya's infamous anti-tetanus campaign showing how WHO and Gates funded HCG-linked shots that cause women's pregnancy hormones to be attacked by their own immune systems. No, people, this is not a conspiracy. This really happened. And this is what Albert Bourla was known for before giving you the COVID vaccines. Contraceptive vaccines are an open, respectable research lane to the depopulationists. And yet Trump, the guy who posts all vaccines are poison, remember that? On Truth Social just a few weeks ago? I guess that was just to keep his base cheering, is now standing there calling the world's most famous livestock fertility tamer a fantastic leader, while RFK Jr. sits behind him like a wax figure. Look at this. That's right, RFK right behind him showing zero emotion whatsoever. That's not a contradiction. That's the whole script right there. They toss you an anti-vax soundbite to chew on while they normalize mass sterilization and call it public health. So now the script drops, a new COVID flavor on the menu. Guess which variant is going around now? Yeah, they're trying to sell you on a new variant. 5 years of this BS. It's beyond laughable at this point, The variant is called Stratus. Cute name, huh? Stratus. In Latin, it means spread out, layered like a blanket. And in English, it's literally a type of cloud. That's right, a low-level gray or white flat uniform sheet that stretches horizon to horizon. The kind of cloud that wipes out the blue sky and leaves you in a dull, overcast haze. Okay? In Spanish, estrado. In French, stratus. All meaning layers, veils, coverings. In other words, a smokescreen. A fog to hide what's really happening. They could have called it cloud cover because that really matches here, because that's exactly what it is. Cover fire for the vaccine fallout. And look at the imagery they've chosen here. Stratus isn't a puffy, innocent cloud. It's the blanket cloud that erases sunlight. It's the same look you get after a heavy day of aerosol spraying, a man-made haze spreading from horizon to horizon. Are you getting the picture here? What if variant Stratus isn't just a name, people? It's them hinting at the next phase, ramping up chemtrails until whole towns wake up inside a mysterious fog. We've already seen mysterious fogs pop up early this year. Remember that? Weird low clouds reported all over the world. No one can explain them. And now the new variant gets named after the very thing that blankets these cities. A low-hanging fog. The media says Stratus is just another mild Omicron remix, okay? A recombinant strain from two imaginary variants detected in wastewater. Yeah, because your literal shit is now the crystal ball for virus outbreaks. Symptoms include sore throat, cough, fatigue, hoarse voice, GI issues, basically the laundry list of things half the country already has because of jab damage, EMF poisoning, chemtrails, and a toxic food chain. Perfect scapegoat, isn't it? They don't need proof of new bioweapons when they can just slap a cloud name on a vaccine injury and call it a day. And just in time, here comes Trump, shaking hands with the Pfizer CEO, Albert Bourla, the pig castrator himself, announcing a secret $70 billion deal. No details released. FOIA requests already flying in. Watchdogs screaming for transparency. But the one thing is clear here. Tariff exemptions, fast-tracked drug approvals, a new website called TrumpRx.gov to funnel you straight into the big pharma grid. Cancer, obesity drugs, vaccines, inflammation, you name it. They're building the assembly line for Warp Speed 2.0. Mary Holland and Brian Hooker are right. Pfizer should be under investigation, not given golden vouchers worth $500 million to push out more poison faster. This is the same Pfizer that fought to hide its own clinical data for 75 years because it was too damaging, in quotes. And Trump, the guy pretending to be anti-vax for the base, is now their sales rep, guaranteeing them protection, special treatment, and a permanent seat at the government table. So let's connect the dots here. Stratus, cloud cover, vaccine injuries, EMF-triggered illnesses, rising cancers, neurological collapse, All of it gets dumped under a new COVID strain, and then the solution comes in the form of Trump and Pfizer's secret partnership. New shots, new pills, fast approvals, discounted prices, which is just marketing code for forced compliance through your digital wallet. They run the same play the same way every time. Invent the fog, hide the damage, sell you the cure. And the fog's name this round? Stratus. Going straight up. Okay. And you can tell Albert Bourla's given Trump advice on how to depopulate the world. Trump's FDA approves a new generic version of an abortion pill. That's right, a patriotic MAGA version of killing babies. This is what I worry about when it comes to vaccines, okay? A new and improved vaccine, this time vetted by RFK, so you know it's safe. They won't call it mRNA. It'll be something else. The MAGA shot. Come get your MAGA shot. It'll keep the illegals out. If this wasn't an actual depopulation agenda playing out in real time, it would read like bad satire. But here we are, applauding the head pig castrator for running human medicine. Now, you know why they treat people like cattle, okay? I mean, you got a veterinarian in charge at Pfizer. Want to know what your future is going to look like with these genocidal maniacs in charge? Look no further than the Ostrich farm in Canada. That's not some quirky local story about exotic birds. No, it's a mirror of exactly how they see us. An agency, the CFIA, rolled in last December with a cull order to destroy nearly 400 healthy ostriches and the farmers' livelihoods. They refused to test the living birds, threatened the farmers with jail if they dared to do it themselves, and spent millions racing to kill the flock before a judge could even rule on whether the farm had the right to appeal. When the farmers tried to live stream what was happening, CFIA blocked the cameras. Some people had to fly drones over the RCMP's hidden command post to find where the farmers were being detained for the crime of feeding and watering their own birds, while Ottawa waited for the green light to slaughter them. This fight isn't just about ostriches, okay? It's about government overreach, property rights, food sovereignty, and yes, the creeping communism that's rearing its ugly head right here in Canada. Dr. Stephen Pellick, a UBC immunologist with 40 years experience, submitted sworn testimony showing these ostriches are perfectly healthy, scientifically valuable too, saying he personally tested the eggs and found antibodies, which, a lot of this antibody and testing PCR stuff is total nonsense. But it just goes to show where even their own tests show they're perfect, and they're fraudulent tests as well. Even their own tests are showing these birds have nothing wrong with them whatsoever, and the government's like, nope, we're going to kill them all. Does that sound familiar to you? Yeah. I mean, they're proving these birds had recovered from whatever illness they had, but it doesn't matter. They aren't a threat. They're a once-in-a-generation scientific asset. A lot of scientists want to study them. Ostrich eggs produce massive amounts of antibodies that can be purified for diagnostics, therapeutics, and even filters. Yet the federal court refused to even look at the evidence. Instead of quarantine or research exemptions, which the law allows, the judge rubber-stamped blanket destruction. The cull isn't just cruel, it's a catastrophic loss for science and public health. And the political class shows you exactly what they think of you and how they treat these farmers and these ostriches. Green Party leader Elizabeth May openly admitted she's less inclined to help because MAGA Americans care about the issue. Can you believe it? She hasn't sent a single letter since January. She's focused on petitions to bring a deported Pakistani man back to Canada, but shrugs at 400 healthy birds being destroyed in her own backyard. That's Canadian politics for you in a nutshell. Evil scumbags wearing a globalist pedo pin, pretending to care about the environment while they greenlight a mass slaughter of animals that could be advancing actual biomedical science. Now zoom out here. When Trump canceled plans for a bird flu vaccine earlier this year, everyone did cheer. But what if that was just the warm-up? Like they did the research and had those shots already stored now? Because behind the scenes, it seems like the narrative is being built. Millions of birds and now dairy cows supposedly have this H5N1. Governments are already salivating over vaccinating 9 million dairy cows in the US against bird flu. They're pitching it on profits, not death rates. Crazy part is, if the ostriches at Universal Ostrich Farm have H5N1 antibodies, it blows a hole in the entire sales pitch. It shows natural immunity is plausible and a rushed vaccine isn't needed. Remember, this is their own science, not even stuff I believe. I don't believe there's anything wrong with them. I don't believe in this idea of antibodies for a virus that doesn't exist. But even their own testing shows they're perfectly healthy. I've never seen a government so adamant to go in and kill hundreds of exotic birds. It's truly despicable. They're trying to cull them before this evidence goes mainstream. Remember, fast-tracked vaccines have a lousy track record. A lot of people that took the COVID shots were always testing positive for COVID, okay? And that made them feel like they needed more boosters because they kept getting sicker and sicker. I mean, will these H5N1 vaccines do the same? Think about it. They inject all these animals with this H5N1 vaccine. What happens next? They'll continue getting sicker and continue testing positive for new variants of this H5N1. We've seen this play out before, and then they have the excuse to cull them by the millions. What we're watching at that farm isn't just about birds. It's the template. Repeated poison injections sold as salvation. Depop poison clot shots because a scary virus is circulating. Demonize dissenters, crush property rights, destroy the evidence, and push everyone into an injection passport grid. They're showing you in real time how they plan to treat humans as a plague on the earth that needs to be culled, controlled, and managed for the greater good. First the ostriches, then the cows, then you. Remember when Florida just removed the mandatory childhood vaccine requirements? I mean, think about what happens if people got sick en masse there. If the demons in charge did something to poison the people there, they could then blame those illnesses on the unvaccinated. See what happens when people refuse to get vaccines? I mean, you can't put it past the DICs. Think about the divide and conquer that would entail there. And here we go, just now. Dozens of unmarked RCMP vehicles descend on the Ostrich farm in BC. This after the CFIA constructed a kill pen. They literally took over this family's farm, turned it into a slaughterhouse, and militarized it with government agents. So we have a bunch of cars going to this ostrich farm here. It's really sad. This is a really devastating story right here. And this just came out today. So it looks like they're about to cull these birds for literally no reason. It's truly, truly heartbreaking. Unbelievable, the snipers have arrived. Trucks with gun cases and tripods set up with camo covers. These people are in a sick death cult. Absolutely. Todd Kane of CFIA will be leaving CFIA and moving to Health Canada as of October 10, 2025. I told you, undoubtedly a promotion for spearheading the slaughter of ostriches in Edgemont, BC. Well done, Todd. Okay, people, Israel's biggest cheerleader just said this. If a Hamas rejects this new deal that Netanyahu and Trump proposed, which is always possible, as you know, Bibi, you'd have our full backing to do what you have to do. He literally framed it as America rubber stamping whatever Netanyahu decides to unleash in the Middle East, as long as he can brand it under his new banner, Eternal Peace. Now, this is pretty interesting wording here from Trump because in the Bible it said something like this, okay? There's a little passage in Daniel and Revelation about a figure who shows up promising peace in the Middle East. Not a temporary ceasefire, not a shaky truce, but a big, sweeping, world-changing peace deal. They call him the man of lawlessness, the deceiver, the Antichrist. And what happens after his so-called peace? Sudden destruction. Chaos, a war that engulfs nations. So when Trump throws out phrases like eternal peace, like he's Moses descending from Mount Sinai, I think it's worth asking, is this just more campaign bluster, or is it the script they're actually running here? Because the way it's always sold is the exact same. Peace first, bloodbath after. It's the exact playbook the prophets warned us about. And here we are, watching it unfold in real time, with Bibi grinning behind him like this is some weird satanic-ish people. Trump jumps on Truth Social and gives Hamas a deadline like he's handing out eviction notices. He brags that 25,000 Hamas fighters are already dead, when U.S. intel says it's a fraction of that. But, you know, how Trump loves exaggerating. Then he claims the war in Palestine has been going on for 3,000 years. Yeah, like Moses was throwing grenades at the Pharaoh. He repeats the same baby burning, woman raping stories that even Israeli investigators debunked, but facts never matter when you're reading Netanyahu's script, okay? And that's what this is. Bibi talks, Trump echoes, and America pays the bill, $3.8 billion a year to Israel, while Netanyahu was wiring Hamas $30 million a month to keep the circus running. Since the October 7 stand down, that's $30 billion from the US. And now Netanyahu is dropping $7,000 a post to psyop the American public. Did you have enough goy slop there, buds? Yeah, just in time, the Jerusalem Post rolls out its 50 influential Jews list. Billionaires like Zuckerberg, Brin, Ellison, Dell, Bloomberg, Altman, all cashing in while donating to the IDF and buying up Israeli startups. Putin just came out saying something interesting. He said Gaza has become the world's largest children's cemetery. I mean, it's crazy if you think about it. 20,000 kids killed in 2 years in Gaza. Compare that with the Russia-Ukraine war. 573 children in that war have died in the past 3 years. Really think about that for a second. And Trump still plays his favorite con here, swearing he won't let Netanyahu annex the West Bank, just like he said he won't allow them to bomb Iran or continue their genocide, while staging photo ops where he forces Bibi to apologize for the bombings. Look at this. Look what all the pro-MAGA people are posting right here. He forced Bibi to apologize. I mean, come on, guys. Look at Netanyahu's face in this picture. That's one hell of a shit-eating grin if I ever saw one, because it's all staged, okay? Every ceasefire and invasion planned in advance. Okay, you want proof? Flip back to the Economist cover from December 2012. 13 years ago, the Rothschilds' own magazine predicted it. Do you guys see this? That's right. It shows paragliders flying into Israel. That wasn't art. That was like a storyboard, predictive programming, and the headline, A Rough Guide to Hell. That's right. It looks like they're trying to usher in a hellish future soon. And it looks like the rough draft became the script. And now Trump's peace plan gives Hamas 72 hours to hand over hostages or face all hell. He's even branding himself as head of a board of peace to govern Gaza, which actually means Netanyahu basically owns him. Okay, the billionaires bankroll him, and Trump is just the salesman in a biblical theater where peace is nothing more than the intermission before the next bloodbath. And get this, Trump just shared this AI-generated video here on Truth Social, and this is just mind-blowing right here. A full-blown parody of Don't Fear the Reaper, starring his budget director, Russ Vought, as the literal Grim Reaper, stalking a hallway lined with Democrat portraits while swinging a scythe like he's culling souls instead of budgets. Trump's in the background banging a cowbell, dressed in all black here like he's at a satanic temple, with a skeleton band behind him while J.D. Vance hammers the drums. And the lyrics even chant, Russ Vought is the Reaper. He wields the pen, the funds, and the brain. This is what the president's doing during a government shutdown, mind you. Sharing AI apocalypse music videos instead of running the country. Now, if I didn't know the real plot behind all of this, I would say this is funny. But even Blue Oyster Cult said they were never even asked about this song right here, and it was taken. But this is all looking like biblical theater right here, wrapping the whole thing in imagery straight out of the book of Joel. And just days before the harvest moon, on October 6th to 7th, that's right, there's going to be a harvest moon incoming in a few days, that ancient celestial sign of reckoning when the sickle comes out and the righteous are separated from the wicked. Trump's video drops just a few days before this harvest moon, dripping with Grim Reaper symbolism. Scripture calls the harvest God's moment of judgment. Maybe this time the harvest isn't about crops at all. Maybe it's a soul harvest. Remember a year ago when that eerie hooded figure, this weird Grim Reaper, was caught on camera just walking past Westminster during King Charles' coronation? Fast forward to now, and Buckingham Palace is quietly making arrangements as the king's health spirals. The same deathly imagery that haunted his coronation is now resurfacing in Trump's feed like an apocalyptic prophecy sequel. And hidden deep in the Vatican's archives is the Prophecy of the Popes, a 900-year manuscript said to be written by Saint Malachi, who claimed he saw every pope that would ever exist, ending with Pope Francis. The last passage warns that after him comes Peter the Roman, the leader who guides the church through destruction before the dreadful judge arrives. Back in 1585, Pope Sixtus wrote about an axle in the midst of a sign, which prophecy watchers say marked the halfway point of human history. Add that same span forward 442 years, and you land squarely in 2027. Okay, and here's a video going over this prophecy of the popes.
Do you want to hear something terrifying? The Prophecy of the Popes. This ancient text was discovered in the Vatican archives. It accurately predicted every pope from 1143 to the present day. The chilling part? After Pope Francis, it simply says, Judgment Day. Yes, it ends with Pope Francis. Inside St. Paul's Basilica, there are portraits of all the popes lining the sanctuary. Strangely, there's only one empty spot left, right after Pope Francis. Legend says that once that final slot is filled, the world will end. The prophecy also calculates the time between the first pope mentioned and a midpoint as 422 years. From that midpoint to the end is another 422 years. The midpoint was in 1585. Adding 422 years brings us to 2027. It gets even eerier. Pope John III once claimed the end would come 2,000 years plus Christ's lifespan. Coincidence or prophecy?
And what does Elon Musk's baby mama, the shady Grimes, say in all this? Well, she was just on a podcast smirking, saying AI will take over most jobs, but don't worry because the great population drop is coming. Then she does this weird kind of smile like she just leaked something she wasn't supposed to say. Check this out.
Overall, I think there's quite a bit of abdication of responsibility around like what are we going to do as people's jobs start being taken fairly aggressively. Luckily, there's a massive population drop coming, so maybe everything is just fate and it's going to work out okay. But I feel like we might get like very, very, very good AI across every pillar of art before there aren't any more people to make art.
Is the Deagle report really coming? Is that going to take place? Because it seems like there's something incoming soon, and it's going to be world-changing, to put it lightly. Remember this? Just about a month ago, Netanyahu signed off on a 6-month, $45 million deal with Google and YouTube to push his Hezbollah propaganda onto the world, pumping out clips that swear there is food in Gaza, okay? No famine whatsoever, and any other claim is a lie, okay? And this was the exact moment the UN declared famine in Gaza. That's right. 367 Palestinians, including 131 kids, have already died from hunger. And it's not just YouTube. $3 million funneled into X ads, another $2.1 million into Outbrain Teeds, plus a whole influencer network recruited to convince Americans that starving families are just fine. All of it coordinated by Lapom, Israel's official ad bureau, which bragged in its own disclosures that it was operating on full emergency format for every branch of the government and military. And you don't even have to guess their intent here, okay? Israel's own minister spelled it out. Finance Minister Smotrich saying no water, no electricity, they can die of hunger or surrender. Heritage Minister Eliyahu flat out declaring Palestinians need to starve and should just emigrate. That's not bad translation, people. That's what their policy really is. Meanwhile, ads running on Google and X smeared the UN as saboteurs, tried to discredit UNRWA, UNRWA, and even targeted the Hind Rajab Foundation, which documents Israeli war crimes, calling it linked to extremists. And big tech didn't just cash the checks, they defended it. Sergey Brin, co-founder of Google, jumped on an internal forum in July to call the UN transparently anti-Semitic after UN rapporteurs blasted Google for profiting from genocide. Keep in mind, this is the same company neck deep in Project Nimbus, their billion-dollar cloud contract with Israel's military. The propaganda blitz wasn't only about Gaza either. The contract explicitly covered Operation Rising Lion, Israel's 12-day bombing of Iran that left at least 436 civilians dead. So let's be clear here. While kids are dying of malnutrition, ministers cheerlead starvation as strategy, and the UN calls it man-made famine. Silicon Valley billionaires are crashing out, running ads telling the world it's all fake, and calling anyone who notices anti-Semitic. That's not sloppy spin, that's industrial-scale deception bought and paid for with your tax dollars. And just after this deal, here comes the next absurdity here. Time to bring back the, well, ain't that some shit segment, folks. That's right, because, well, ain't that some shit. TikTok is now reportedly banning the juice box emoji. Yeah, you know, the little green cartoon with a straw and an apple on the front? Why? Because juice sounds like Jews. And the ADL decided it's being used as coded anti-Semitism. So the answer apparently is to censor emojis. Wrap your head around that. We're at the point where even a tiny cartoon drink is getting canceled for anti-Semitism. If they're banning emojis today, don't be surprised when they shut down entire websites tomorrow. That's how thin the ice is. Well, ain't that some shit? Satan Yahoo's clearly pissed off here. Even juice boxes are now a threat. And while you're laughing at that insanity, get this right here. Israel is now paying influencers $7,000 per post to pump out pro-Zionist propaganda. Where's that cash even coming from? How do they have that kind of money? I mean, rhetorical question, of course. From you! America's $38 trillion in debt. And that's a small part because tax dollars are funneled through to Tel Aviv and back into PR campaigns designed to keep you docile. Names like Brandon Tatum, and that's right, this man right here is getting paid big bucks to spoon feed the MAGA base their daily dose of Israel First talking points. Turns out Charlie Kirk, before he got clipped, actually wrote a letter to Netanyahu back in May whining that Israel was losing the information war with young Americans. And his solution, flood TikTok, flood Instagram, get Gen Z influencers on the payroll. And what do you know? Bibi listened. New filings show Israel dropping close to $1 million just to pay American influencers $6 to $7 grand per post to churn out pro-Zionist propaganda. And if that wasn't enough, Netanyahu inked a $6 million deal with Brad Parcells' firm, yeah, Trump's old campaign manager, to crank out 5,000 pieces of content a month targeted straight at Gen Z with a goal of 50 million impressions. And the crazy part is the contract literally says they're working on GPT framing results, which means they're programming AI chatbots to spit out pro-Israel talking points as if they're neutral facts. The same tech kids used to write their essays is being wired to whitewash a genocide. And they've already been caught before. Israel's diaspora ministry ran fake American sock puppets with AI-generated posts to lobby lawmakers. They got busted. So now they're just doing it bigger, louder, and with U.S. firms cashing the checks. And don't miss why they're doing this, okay? Polls are showing only 9% of ages 18 to 34-year-olds support Israel's war. So the billionaires and politicians are panicking. And the fix is pretty simple. They buy the feeds, buy the bots, and then they'll win the narrative. That's what they hope. Charlie Kirk warned them, apparently. Parcell bills them, and Bibi signs it all. And Americans foot the bill. But I gotta say, let's cover this letter right here Charlie allegedly sent to Netanyahu. Okay, the one mainstream outlets keep quoting as proof that he was begging Israel to win the information war with more influencers. But look at the highlighted section here. He's not writing like a loyal foot soldier. He's writing like a man who's had enough. He literally calls out the Iraq WMD lie, the same lie Netanyahu personally sold to Congress in 2002 to drag America into war. He basically says, why should anyone trust you? After being lied to about Iraq and then lied to again about COVID shots. You know, the same COVID shot that Netanyahu has framed. in a little display because it was probably the greatest weapon Israel has ever produced. Okay. And maybe they thought Charlie Kirk was onto them about that one thing, okay? Sounds like Charlie warned Bibi, and now people are pointing out that this letter looks spliced together, okay? Parts conveniently making him sound like he wants more Israeli propaganda. Think about it, begging Bibi to push more propaganda on the American people, and then other parts sounding like he's openly skeptical of October 7 and Israeli intelligence. If Charlie really was asking, why should we trust Netanyahu's word on Iran, that flips the whole story. And now the timing is even more chilling. The same week, Netanyahu is back in Congress demanding more weapons, selling his regional war plan, and whitewashing Gaza as just self-defense. Charlie, the guy who could have blown the whistle on it all, ends up dead. And let's not forget the rumor floating that Netanyahu allegedly offered Charlie Kirk $150 million to make sure his brand stayed in line with Israeli interests. Okay, we already know how that turned out. The same guy who built a career on being anti-establishment just so happens to toe the line whenever Israel's in the hot seat. What a coincidence, huh? So when you put it all together, Google and big tech laundering propaganda, emojis being criminalized, influencers cashing out Zionist checks, and these weird letters that Netanyahu conveniently puts out that Charlie Kirk sent him just after swearing he didn't have anything to do with the murder of Charlie Kirk. I mean, do you not see what's happening here? The narrative is being locked down from every angle. Get ready, people. You're going to see a lot more people thrown in prison under the banner of anti-Semitism, okay? I mean, if they're canceling emojis, I mean, where do you think this is going to lead to? While at the same time, chemtrails rain poison on the masses, biometric ID slavery rolls out worldwide, the chaos is being staged. And if you think it won't end in world war with civil wars inside every country, just look back at the Economist's 2012 cover. Paragliders, fire, famine, surveillance. X here. I wonder what they mean by that. They told you what was coming. Now the storyboard is becoming a reality. And that's where I'm going to leave it, folks. If you want to support this channel, it is greatly appreciated. You hit those links in the description. 4 ways to support. Everything you see here is done by myself. The research, the editing, everything. So if you appreciate the effort that goes into this, please consider hitting those links in the description. 4 ways to support. Subscribestar, Patreon. You could subscribe monthly, and it will be greatly appreciated. One-time donations are also greatly appreciated. PayPal in the description. E-transfer links. Eyes Wide Open Coffee, organic coffee. Links are in the description of this video. You will be helping this channel by purchasing it. Crypto people out there, if you want to support with cryptocurrency, links are in the description of this video. Until next week, folks, until next time, this is Steve Eyes. You're on the Eyes is Watching channel, signing off.